This is Charlie Mike, the podcast. Veterans helping veterans, talking about things happening in the veteran community, things we've experienced and overcome, such as addictions, PTSD, depression, legal trouble. And we also promote veteran-owned businesses. If you're talking about it, we're talking about it. This is Charlie Mike, the podcast.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Charlie Mike, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Raul, and we have a guest today. My special guest is Chris. Chris is an Army veteran, and we're going to learn a little bit about Chris. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm good, Raul. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Tell me, man, how's your day went well?
It did. It's cold out here in Colorado. It snowed a little bit, which made things a lot of fun. Rushing home from work to be able to join you. By the way, thank you for having me today. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, the honor's mine. I did some time in Colorado Springs, Fort Carson. I did a few years
Right.
out there. I missed this. I missed the snow, but I don't miss doing PT in it. That's for sure.
Well, let me tell you, I'll gladly send it your way if I could. I'm done with it, man.
I think the people here in Texas, Houston, would be kind of pissed off at me if that was the case. We don't handle ice storms very well at all. Yeah,
I'm not a big fan myself, but it's kind of the situation that we're in.
Yes, sir. I understand. Before we get started, I want to say, Chris, thank you for coming on the show. And, we want to send a prayer out to, we had 3 police officers who were shot here in Houston today. Our prayers are to them and their families, and hopefully for speedy recovery. I wanted to get that out of the door real quick. Chris, will you do me a favor and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name, like he told you, my name's Chris Denton. I live here in Colorado Springs, have for the last 21 years. I was in 1998. I joined the Mississippi National Guard, the 155 out of Fulton, Mississippi. Did basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky from October through January, which if you've ever been to Fort Knox, that's the worst time you can be there. And then went active duty and wound up here at Fort Carson. Did 3 more years. So I was in, I say roughly 5 years. It's a little over 5 years altogether. I'm a 19 Delta. For those of you that don't know, the Army, it's a scout. And that's pretty much it. From there, deployed once to Iraq in 2003 to 04. And ended up getting a little bit messed up and got out in 2004. And I've just been living the civilian life, or the veteran life, I should say, since then.
What made you want to stay in Fort Carson area?
Being from Tennessee, I never saw mountains, and I thought, this would be a cool place to go. And got out here, and I got to be honest with you, it's gorgeous out here.
Really,
if you can stand the cold, it's a whole different kind of cold out here.
Yeah.
But it is beautiful, and I got into the mountain life. I enjoyed, building Jeeps and things like that, and so we go 4-wheeling on the weekends and just do all kinds of craziness like that.
That's nice. How did your service, your time in service go? Did you, I know you said you did you did some time in Iraq. Were you there for the initial push? Am I right?
Right. Right. Yeah. The initial push in from, we wound up at the Al Asad Air Base, which was not really established at that point. The British SAS went in and during the invasion and took that over, from my understanding. But it was very rudimentary. None of the established communication, back home, none of that. We did quite a bit of convoy escorts, kicking in doors and things of that nature in the very beginning. It was very, very rudimentary. You'd set up screen lines and sit there for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, living in abandoned train stations, whatever buildings you could find, basically.
Yeah, golly, I couldn't imagine. That's as the first initial push went in, and the way, the way of life living changed throughout each deployment. I couldn't imagine the time, when y'all went to the time that I was there. We had it was kind of more set up than it
Right.
was, initially, and we had a little bit more communication with the family and things like that. I saw the guys towards the end had cell phones and things like that, which was insane. Yeah. So, what did you? So did you ended up getting out? You said in 2004.
Correct.
2004. What was the reason behind you getting out? You just knew it was time.
Well, it was a combination of things, to be honest. I'd met a girl here I knew wasn't going to move, and call it crazy, but I was in love, right? And at the end of the
Crazy.
day, yeah, yeah, crazy is what it was. Lost my ever loving mind, as the drill sergeant used to say. But I'd had some medical issues. I had some substance abuse issues, none of which were ever documented. That was all handled internally back then at the platoon, the company level. Nothing, again, no infractions, but I just knew that I couldn't continue down this path. The life of a scout is kind of like the life of an infantryman. Your body gets beat up, really quick, really fast. And of course, I was the guy that never said no, so I was always jumping in, doing whatever I could do wherever, just for the experience. And I was a thrill seeker. And again, the substance abuse aspect, which we'll get into, was really starting to weigh heavy on me. And it was affecting every aspect of what I did, and that was very, very difficult to deal with. And so I just thought, it's time. There's other stuff to do. And again, I got a case of the stupid and fell in love there. And yeah, I wound up getting out and thinking the civilian life is the way for me, which obviously, that conversation can go in 5 or 6 different directions.
Right. Do you miss it?
The military?
Yeah.
Daily.
Every day.
Daily. I don't miss the motor pool. I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, nobody does.
But I miss the people. I miss knowing that no matter what, that you got a guy to your left and right that feels the same way you do. And the like-mindedness, the camaraderie of the whole thing. I miss the adrenaline of it.
Yeah.
The deployment.
When
it's like, I tell people, it's like, going to school to be a doctor. You can train all you want, go to school all you want, learn all this information, but until you get a chance to go practice, when it counts, when your life's on the line, do you really know that you're as good as you say you are?
Right. Understood.
And that's a big thing.
Yeah. When I was in service, I had a lot of trouble adjusting, which a lot of us do once we get out.
Right.
I was known for so many years being a soldier and being, Moreno. I forgot how to be Raul and forgot how to be, a civilian. If that makes, it makes more sense to us than
Absolutely.
it does other people hearing this at this moment. It was a struggle. I turned to I had PTSD. I mean, I still struggle to this day, but I'm sober, which is a great thing. I had,
Absolutely.
my battles with shit, you name it. I had my battles with it,
Right.
but it's a blessing to be here and speaking with you. And I'm pushing about 952 days right now.
Excellent.
So
Wow.
it's a blessing. And if you would have asked me back when I started my sobriety, I don't think I would have pictured this moment now. I wouldn't have pictured
No.
the person that I'm speaking to right now as me. And I fell in love with this guy, and and I don't want to change. And I don't think I am. You know how they say one day at a time.
Right.
Yeah. Tell us. So when you got out, so what was you? I mean, what was your plan?
Honestly, I don't remember having a plan.
Right.
I remember the last 6 months of service. Every night, I'll just break into a story if you don't mind.
No, please do.
Um, I tell you, and part of, you'll have to excuse me, but I mean, as veterans, we like dark humor. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's all about dark humor for us because that's the only thing that makes sense. Regular comedy doesn't work for us.
Right.
And so I try to make jokes to deal with some of the stress and some of the anxiety. But like diagnosed with PTSD and the whole 9 yards, that's the way that I come across. And so the last 6 months of service, I'd get up at 5 a.m, drive on post to do PT, and I'd have a 20-ounce Mountain Dew bottle. Half of it was vodka and the other half was Mountain Dew. And that was my norm. First thing in the morning. That was my norm. And then about 1,300, I'd refill it. And then 1,600 get off work. I'd stop by the Class 6, buy a 6-pack of Budweiser Ponies, the little 7-ounce beers, and I'd drink those on the way to the house. And I would get home, lay down for about 2 or 3 hours, get up about 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, take a shower and go to the bar. And I'd be there till 3 a.m. They'd close the bar down. I'd come back home, get something to eat, go do PT, rarely ever sleep. I did that for 6 solid months. And, it never dawned on me. I grew up in an alcoholic home. My father was an alcoholic for years. And thank God he's been 20 plus years in recovery now. It never dawned on me that I was going down that road, that's the route that I was traveling. I didn't think I had a problem. None of us ever did.
None of us.
You ask anybody in recovery, nobody had a problem. Not to mention, here and there, the drugs back and forth. Cocaine was my drug of choice. And that, that in itself is just dangerous as the day is long. You never know what they're mixing in it, what they're stepping on it with. But anyway, the 6 months, I was doing those types of things constantly. I was a competitive pool player here in Colorado Springs, and every night I'd be playing pool somewhere at a different bar, doing the same damn thing. The definition of insanity, the same thing every day, expecting different results, and it never changed.
Right.
So when I got out, I sat on my ass. My goal was, and I told my ex-wife, I was like, my goal for 6 months is to sit here and see how hairy and how fat I can get.
Yeah.
And I did, brother. I would load. She would get up and go to work in the morning, and I would go to the liquor store. I'd buy a case of beer, come home, put it in the cooler, and roll the cooler up beside the recliner, and that's where I'd stay for 6 months, and it never changed. And finally, one day she comes home and looks me square in the face and says, "Get off your ass and get a job." And I'm like, "Yes, ma'am."
I guess, yeah, it's time, huh?
Yeah.
What job did you reach out to? What kind of employment were you doing at the time?
I had initially thought I wanted to go work for the Highway Patrol. With the MOS 19 Delta, you really don't have anything that transfers into civilian life.
Right.
It's either the mafia or law enforcement. And at that time, the mafia wasn't hiring.
It's not funny, but it's funny. So
it's only funny because it's true,
right?
And so, I went to the Colorado Highway Patrol, passed all their tests, and I never will forget this. I was sitting there and they do an oral interview where there's 5 or 6 of you in a panel, and they start asking you questions. And they asked me a question about a scenario type thing, and told me what equipment I was carrying, and I answered the question, fuck, tase the guy. And they're like, no, we don't do that here. So it wound up not working out because I was a little too aggressive in a hypothetical scenario, right?
Right.
So I wound up taking a minimum, well, I call it minimum wage. It was a little above minimum wage job for an armored car company here. So basically out of the frying pan into the damn fire.
Yeah. How long did you do that for?
I was there for about 5 years.
Uh-huh.
And then started going back to school using the GI Bill. I got 2 degrees, 4.0s in both degrees for architectural and mechanical drafting. And then I went to work for myself. I opened my own business, doing any type of fabrication, metalwork, any of that. So we started building anything from decorative stuff that you'd see on the wall out of steel to custom Jeeps, parts, whatever. Anything to make money,
And
basically.
you were running this business as you were fully blown
Oh, yeah.
addict? So you were what do they call it?
Highly functional.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. So you were
Very
able to
highly
maintain and work at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was easy because you get in such a rut with alcoholism.
Right.
It wasn't a matter of the body needing the substance. It was the mind that needed to be slowed down to be able to focus.
Right.
And then once you drink too much, the Coke would come in and wake you right back up. And that was the focus. That was the way to focus. Like coffee back then didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
I needed more and more and more. And so, I made a lot of bad decisions during those times. The business got closed because I couldn't afford to keep up with it. And at that point, I started shopping around. I was on and off of the drugs. Mike's wife never knew. For 8 years we were married. She never knew that I had a drug addiction.
Really? And so it was just the alcohol with her.
Right. And she never knew how full blown the alcoholism was.
Wow.
Living in the same house, sleeping in the same bed. She never knew.
You really were functioning.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's horrifying. When I think about it now and think back on those years, it's gut wrenching to know just all the shit that I got away with. I mean, she knew a little bit. You can obviously tell somebody's been drinking.
Right.
But yeah, she never knew. And so around about, I guess it was 2008, I shut the business down and went to work for Schriever Air Force Base as a contractor out there for Lockheed Martin. And,
back down range?
No, I was at Schriever Air Force Base here in Colorado Springs.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And again, full-blown alcoholism, the whole nine, still making the same bad decisions, still doing the same things. Employment never seemed to last more than 4 or 5 years. You get stuck in a rut and finally just get sick of shit. And I was able to transfer a couple times through that employment. Again, still carrying the alcoholism like nobody's business. Not paying attention to what was going on in my life. I made a lot of bad decisions. I cheated on my ex-wife, which is why she's my ex-wife. She did the absolute correct thing and threw me out, and for that, I wholly blame myself. I wound up in January of 2008 at a point. I had a 2-year-old son, who I dearly adore, loved him, loved everything about it. But I reached a point to where I couldn't tell what was true and what was a figment of my imagination. And I can only accredit that to the alcohol and the drugs.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what was happening in my own life. Now back that up a little bit. When I got out of the military, I never went to the VA. I went, and back then in 2004, I felt like a number. Nobody, it was not personal at all. It was very cold. We've got 5 military installations here in Colorado Springs within 60 miles. You can't swing a dead cat in this freaking state and not hit a veteran or somebody that's related to one.
Right. Yeah.
So the VA system's overloaded. All of this shit was compounding on me. And in January of 08, I got in my Jeep, told my ex-wife, hey, I'll be back. We're still married. Drove up into the mountains in that Jeep with a bottle of Jack Daniels and a Glock 9mm. And as you can imagine, I drank as much of that Jack Daniels as I could. And I got in my feels, as they say, and I just thought, man, this is bullshit. This life is just bullshit. What the hell am I doing? What's the point? What's it worth? And now, being a military man, weapon systems, they don't fail.
Right.
Especially your personal, right?
Especially Glock.
So, yeah. So I pulled that Glock out, fully loaded, put it to my head, and I squeezed the trigger. Popped the primer, but the round never discharged.
What?
You talk about instant sobriety after you've been shit-faced drunk. It's not physically possible, but it is mentally and spiritually possible.
Right.
So I ejected the round and caught it, and I fired the next 6 rounds in the dirt, and I sit there, and I thought to myself, man, this ain't right. I don't know if you're a religious man or not, but I just knew that this gets me a little emotional. You have to excuse me.
No, I understand.
But I just knew that day that there was something else that I had to do. God wasn't done with me. It wasn't time for Valhalla, And I thought, man, I've got to do something. Something's got to change. And I drove down from those mountains, and it didn't stop me from drinking or doing drugs or any of that. It actually lit another fire that kind of led on to where we're at now. I started devoting more time to the VA and trying to get help and pushing to get help. My ex-wife helped me file the forms and everything, and I got enrolled in the VA system. And I'm telling you, it helped. It wasn't the end all be all,
right? But
it certainly helped. And I never did. I started getting the physical aspect of it taken care of. Them looking at the health and all of that stuff, and got into some mental health things. And it was better than nothing, but it wasn't what I needed. And then, of course, the divorce comes along. Again, the whole time drinking, out partying, doing the wrong things. The divorce comes along, and I just spiral. Here I am in a foreign state. My family's in Tennessee. The people that care about me are in Tennessee. Here I am, 1,400 miles away. What the am I going to do?
Right.
I don't know if I can cuss or not, but I usually try not to.
You say what you want to say.
It's I've still got the military mindset when it comes to the F word. I use it, but I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. Trying to maintain a job, trying to pay $700 a month in child support, trying to pay an $850 a month mortgage by myself. Holy shit, man. And it still never slowed me down from addictions. Most of my paycheck is gone just paying those two things. But it's just like a crackhead. You ever heard a crackhead say, I don't have money for crack? Oh, no, you haven't.
Yeah.
They hustle and go get it, right? Same thing, never changed. So at the end of that, I found, I went out Labor Day, I don't remember what year it was, 13, I believe. And I bought a 4-wheeler. Just an old clapped out piece of shit. Cause I used to ride all the time. when I was a kid, and I loved it. And I thought, man, I need something. I need something in my life. Again, full-blown addiction. I jump on this four-wheeler and I go ride it for 4 hours in the mountains of Colorado. You talk about peaceful, free, no, when the helmet goes on, man, the whole world shut off, and I didn't have problems.
Yeah.
It was like I never left the hills of Tennessee. I'm out just being a country boy, right? And I thought, this is it. Bam, we got it. Winter chicken dinner. I found a local race series, got back involved in racing. And through that, I was able to join a team, Vigilant Vet Racing, which was nationwide. We had 13, or at one point we had 26 riders across the nation racing to raise awareness of PTSD and veteran suicide. And I thought, yes, this is what I'm designed to do. And it was great. You know, again, full-blown addiction in full swing. And it went great for years. It was good. You know, we were helping folks. You know, the outreach that we had was great. Sponsorships from these big corporations. It was wonderful. And then it fell flat because they put me in charge of it. And I didn't possess the capability to multitask, run my own, you know, life, continue with the addiction and the drugs and everything else, and then work and then figure out how to manage this team. It all fell apart. And again, I shoulder the blame for that. I had some of the greatest guys out there, and I let them down. You know, the addiction stole that. I still talk to most of them, and we're all still buddies, but it just started to unravel, and there was nothing I could do. And then the group that I started racing with out here in 13, the Colorado Off-Road Championship Series, Corks for short, great bunch of folks. You know, they kind of took me in, and I started to volunteer with them. So I would help go set the race courses up, and racers are like veterans. The camaraderie that we share is it's not the same, but it's very similar in a lot of different ways. So I started volunteering with those guys. I met some amazing people. I mean, absolutely genuine people. One or two of them vets, most of them civilians. But for some reason, they latched on to old Chris. I don't know why. Have no idea why.
I could see it.
But they did. You know, I guess they saw that I had a passion just like theirs. And it really worked out. It worked out great. And so for a couple of years, I was in that volunteer status. Again, still searching for more, you know, but still maintaining the bullshit that I was doing with the drugs and alcohol. One great day, you know, and this is probably my favorite part of the whole story, years later, you know, things were happening. I got a phone call. They wanted me to go out and help them do some recon on a potential property we were going to go race. And I was hammered drunk the night before, you know, higher than a kite. And they come to pick me up. I was so hungover, I couldn't even focus, you know, so I'm glad that they were driving. But we get down to the place, and the guy says, well, I didn't have a four-wheeler to let you borrow, so I brought a bike. I hope you don't mind. And this is the day that really changed my life. Well, started to change in my life. I said, okay. And he goes, well, the bike's in the back of my truck. Why don't you go unload it? And I said, okay. So I stumbled over there because I was still hungover. Opened the back of the van, start dragging this motorcycle out. It's got my name, and my race number on it. And it didn't dawn on me because I was so screwed up. Why does his bike have my information on it? So I roll it out. These guys built a motorcycle for me.
Shit, man.
They all got together, took their own money, bought a bunch of parts, and built this motorcycle, the one that I'm riding now. And they wanted me in their circle. This bunch of civilians wants me in their circle, right? Unbelievable. I was so humbled by that. And that was what started me thinking, man, what the hell am I missing? What did I do? And like, hey, man, we just love you. We want you around. Anyway, that started me thinking. You know, the whole time bouncing between job after job, again, they never lasted for more than a few years. I thought, man, I fit in here. This fits, you know, like it did when I was in the military.
Right.
You just know that these people have your back and they love you unconditionally. But that still wasn't enough to trigger the, hey, get off of these drugs and get away from this alcohol and get your life together. It's all falling apart. But there was a bright spot in it. So when that happened, I started, because I was terrified of dirt bikes. I've never been on one until now, until then. And these guys, like I said, they went way out of their way for me. And so I started paying a little bit more attention to everything that was going on. And I ended up leaving the job at Schriever. I went, you know, a couple of different places. I hung doors and windows in ski country here in Colorado over the winter. Let me tell you now, if you want to freeze your ass off, I got a guy that will put you to work, and I'm telling you, it's god awful. I've never been so cold in all my life.
I'll stick with this Texas heat.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you know, send me some of that. But it was god awful. It was, I mean, it was good, clean, honest work, but it was god awful, cold, and I'm too old for that shit. 40 feet up on a ladder in 13-degree weather. No, thank you. But I was able to, he referred me to another company, the company I work for now. I've been there for 2 years. And these guys are amazing. You know, it started off, there was another vet there, but it was only the two of us out of like 10 folks. Again, full-blown addiction. You know, and well, let me back that up a little bit. I left the job at Schriever to go be a distiller at a local veteran-owned distillery here in Colorado Springs. Couldn't have been worse for me in the situation. 9 o'clock in the morning, we're running 190 proof vodka, and I take a pint glass over to the still and hold it up and fill it up. Is that good for an alcoholic?
Nah, that's definitely not the place for one either. Yeah.
No, sir. And so for a few months, you know, that went on and on and on. And finally he came to me and he did me a favor. He looks at me and he goes, I got enough money to pay you for next week, but you're going to have to find something else. And it broke my heart. This guy's supposed to be a vet, supposed to be my brother, supposed to be, you know, and it wasn't about any of that. It was about finances, actually, you know. And so he did me a favor and let me go. And then I did the door and window job, and then now I'm at the place now. But again, you spiral off into a depression, even worse than what you were going through. And man, it hit me. I'm like, I started having this thought in my head. Maybe I should put a check on my drinking, check on my drug use. Maybe I should back this down a little bit. You'll never believe me when I tell you this, but I was so hard-headed. I overdosed 3 times in 4 months on cocaine. Went to the hospital, had the paramedics in my house, missed time with my son because of this. 3 times in 4 months, and I went right back to it each time. That's how deep it was. This shit almost killed me. And I went right back to it each time. The whole time, me telling myself, I had a thought in my head, man, maybe I should put a check on this. I ought to back down a little bit. You know, maybe I'll live a little bit longer. 18 years of abuse. day in, day out. You know, good things happening in my life, it didn't matter. Bad things happening in my life, it didn't matter. I avoided every thought, every feeling, every emotion, every opportunity for 18 years. And then one day, Christmas Eve last year, my first year at this new company, my employer, I had all kinds of problems. Drinking was way higher than it had ever been. Drug abuse, way more than it had ever been. So every time that little check engine light would come on, I would put tape over it and drive on, right?
Right.
Turn up the stereo, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
The owner of the company calls me in his office Christmas Eve, the day before I get to see my son for the greatest holiday of the year. Sits me down in the office and he goes, you know, if it wasn't for the manager of this company, I'd have fired you long ago. There ain't nothing like being put on notice. That drove me deeper. More alcohol, more drugs, more depressants. The whole time, my check engine light's going, man, you need to do something. You better do something. So finally one day, it was 270, what's today? 276 days ago. I got too drunk the night before, was sitting here in this very chair. I took out my laptop, put it in my lap, and I rolled out a fat, one about as big around as my pinky, laid out a big old line of Coke at 5 a.m, snorted it, went in, took a shower, came back out, did another one. And then I called my boss. I'm like, I can't make it into work today. Something wrong with my truck. Can't make it in. He sent somebody over here to get me. Brought me to work. I couldn't even speak. I was so fucked up. So high and still so drunk from the night before. Got into work and I was there for about an hour and a half. And my hands started shaking so violently at my computer that I couldn't stop them. And it hit me, man, I'm about to die. This is it. This is the end all be all. There is no more. My whole life flashed in front of my eyes. I've never been so terrified of anything in my life. And I thought, I can't drive. I couldn't even pick up the phone. I just started walked right out of the job, started walking down the street. And luckily, I sent up a message to a friend. Hey, you need to get here. And I sent him my location. And they pulled over in the park that I was sitting in. I couldn't even speak to him. I was crying. I couldn't catch my breath. My heart was racing. And they wound up taking me to the hospital, the Denver VA hospital. That was the day that the old Chris died. I spent 3 days there, just laying there. Didn't want to interact. Wouldn't talk to the nurses. Wouldn't deal with anybody. The doctor comes in and picks my chart up and looks at the blood work. And he goes, son, I want you to know I've been doing this a while. And he goes, I can't even believe you're alive at the levels in your blood. It's a miracle. And I thought, no, it's not a miracle. It's Tuesday. You ought to see me on a Friday if you think that's bad. But yeah, that was the end. And, you know, honestly, between you and me, I thank God for that day.
Man, are you religious right now?
Huh?
Are you like deep in religion right now?
You know, I go back, I struggle. I was raised Southern Baptist and I'm aware, but I'm working on it.
You know, somebody saved your life. How many times?
Oh,
4,
yeah.
5?
Yeah, you better believe it. More than that.
You got a mission. There's something deep planned for you, Chris. Hearing your
You know,
story.
the scary part of it is I've always felt, this is where the story turns for the better. Ever since that day, 6 days ago, the story's changed. I got away from alcohol. I got away from drugs. You know, it wasn't by me. I didn't do it. There was a higher power involved. I absolutely know it to be true. That day in 2008, there was a plan that was laid out that I didn't see because I wasn't looking, not because it wasn't there. And now, 276 days ago, that plan was activated. You know, the mission, we got the green light. And so now the mission for me is to spread the awareness, but to do it correctly, of veteran suicide and PTSD, and now addiction. And the way that I'm doing that is I dug into, before I quit, I dug into a local veteran group, which is 600,000 followers strong. But every time that we would meet up at a brewery or a distillery, feeding that. Have a beer, come celebrate with us, come be around us. And it was good up until it wasn't.
Right.
For a person like me or an addict, you can't keep feeding them. And that's exactly what was happening. By no fault of the group, by any means. And so now in sobriety, the plan is to start initiating sober meetups, sober events, or meetups that offer, and this is one of the coolest parts, but meetups that offer the camaraderie without the alcohol or the substance, to get out and do the normal things. Now, why don't they do more of this? Because it's not popular in the veteran community. Point blank, it's not popular.
It's true.
So I've linked up with a couple of organizations that I want you guys, if anybody's watching in the Colorado Springs area or around the country, doesn't matter. The BFWs and the American Legions, right? They don't, well, I shouldn't say they don't. The majority of them are built around the bar.
Correct.
Okay. Here in Colorado Springs, we've got the Enlisted Association. Now, the Enlisted Association is more than just a bar. We're trying to revolutionize how veterans look at veteran service organizations such as that. We've got a couple of VFWs and a couple of American Legions on board here in town that it's no longer, you know, you as an OIF vet or an Afghan vet walk into a bar, sit down beside a Vietnam vet, and you feel like you don't belong. It's not like that anymore. You know, we've got activities for the families. And so I joined the board. I'm the second vice president of our local chapter here in Colorado Springs. We're going to be starting a sobriety group, support group that is, you know, it's not going to be regulated by a professional. It's just going to be a bunch of us vets from all walks of life, all ages, and all areas of conflict, just to sit down and go, hey, man, I see you. I think you're doing an awesome job. You look great today. What's on your mind? You want to throw some darts? You want to sit here and have a Dr. Pepper? Let's just chill. Those types of things. I was also, and during one of these events that we had, right, I'm up there telling stories and to a couple of friends of mine, and this is where the veteran community really kicks ass, and I just absolutely adore it, because I was talking to a couple of friends that I haven't seen for years. And one of them mentions to me, he's like, Chris, would you be willing to go down to Fort Carson and talk to the guys in the ADAP program? I'm like, what the hell's the ADAP program? He says, oh, it's the Army Substance Abuse Program, the new version of it. And I'm like, Oh, you mean the ASAP program, Army Substance Abuse? Yeah, I graduated that shit 3 times because it was promotion points. You know, I'm just making a joke. And they linked me in. And I tell you, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is stand there in front of 28 to 30 active duty soldiers that are there because they've got an infraction dealing with drugs or alcohol. Now, these guys may be looking at the ends of their career. They may be looking at a slap on the wrist. We don't know. It doesn't matter. But to have the opportunity to stand in front of those guys and go, number one, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm you 20 years from now. I've been in your shoes. I may or may not understand your situation, but I've been there. And this is my story. This is where you're headed. I'm here to help you avoid that. To be able to give back to our currently serving brothers and sisters is one of the greatest opportunities I've ever had in my life. And so with that, it's hard to not do it. You know, and I dearly love the opportunity and I take it every chance. Matter of fact, I got one coming up in like 2 weeks. And I get nervous, you know, because I don't want to go in there and fail.
Right.
But, you know, and you don't want to go in there and not be successful.
Right.
And the amount of people that, you know, and the guy told me, he's like, whatever you do, don't get upset if these guys, you know, don't listen or they don't care or they don't come up to you afterwards. Every one of those guys in that class came up and shook my hand after and said, thank you for being here. Thank you for telling us this. I even had an E7, or no, I'm sorry, an E8 that was in that class come up to me and go, how do I do it? Like, how do you do what, Sarge? What do you want to know? How do I get away from this? How do I get my family back? How do I get back on track? I can't tell you how humbling that is and how powerful it was for me to be a part of that. And now, with, gosh, where do I even go? I get so scatterbrained with this stuff. But now I've got the opportunity through the racing, you know, to go out not only on the quad and go race, but on the dirt bike and go race. We got 2 races coming up next month in Texas that I'm going to be at, racing for awareness for PTSD and veteran suicide.
Where at in Texas?
There's shit. You had to put me on the spot. It's on my phone, which if I start looking for it, yeah.
Tell me offline and I'll share it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's the Lone Star Enduro. The Lone Star and then Caprock Canyon Enduro. So yeah, I mean, I can send you the links to them. But and then we're going to be locally here. We've got like 8 races scheduled that I'll be a part of, and then we're going to go out to Kansas Memorial Weekend and race out there.
Wow.
But I mean, it's the amount of people, and you wouldn't even believe this, but the stuff that I share on my social media about recovery and not being silent about it. You know, I like to say having the balls to talk about my failures.
Yeah.
You know, I've had 6 or 8 people, civilians that I met through racing or through life, message me, bartender messaged me and asked me, how do I do this? What steps do I take? You know, that's the most powerful thing that we can do is to step up and go, I know, I can help you. You know, I'll take the time. And now I know why that primer failed in 2008. Chris, and it's just been a blessing.
Your entire story is amazing. And I say it's not, you know, your story is still being written. And man, hearing your story, I like literally have chills in my arms. I I I I can understand a lot of it because I've experienced a lot of it myself, and to share the message, man, that recovery is possible
Absolutely.
is freaking amazing, and to see it in you, my brother, and to hear your story and to hear where you've come from and how you are now and where you're going, man. The sky's the limit.
Right.
I'm excited to talk to you in a year from now, and 2 years and so on. um Man, just man, keep doing what you're doing, brother. You're here for a reason. You're meant to be here. And I see it in you. I can hear it in your voice just alone, man. You have a lot of knowledge.
The thing is, I like to tell people, and I want to share this with you too, and the viewers. I want to share this thought with you. It's that if you're struggling with addiction and you're thinking it may be time to do something, it is time. Do it.
Right.
You know, I'm 44 years old and I'm 276 days sober. And I've got every reason to not be, but I've got even more reasons to be.
Yes, sir.
And the same thing, it's, addiction, and I'm sure that you probably heard this or thought it yourself, but addiction's like looking through the scope of a rifle. All you see is this much.
Yeah.
You don't see the big picture of what's really going on. The people that love you and support you, and you can't make that decision. Nobody can make it for you. You're the only person that can do it. You know that as good as I do. And, it doesn't matter how bad somebody wants it for you. And that's what, like my parents, God bless, fought with me and fought with me and fought with me, begged me, and I couldn't. And up until the day that it finally was my turn, I decided no more. And there was a lot of motivating factors. And, without media outlets such as this podcast, which I am absolutely in love with, I love what you're doing. Without media outlets like this, not being afraid to say, hey, man, here's the deal, and this is what's going down, I get it. People can identify, just like me, I can identify with your story in several ways. And having the courage to stand something like this up and do it out of your, and for the reasons that you're doing it, brother, you can count on me any day of the week. Whenever you need me, I'm here. I
appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
I can't, we got to plug Tallyman because he's the one that put us together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Brian, he's a good dude.
Brian, what good people, right? Yeah. He's a Marine. We'll let him have that. We'll forgive him on that deal. But what a great guy to put us together.
Yeah. He told me, he said, man, speak to Chris. Chris is a good dude. And I was like, you know what? You said he is. I believe you. He's a man of his word, ain't he? And
he certainly is.
I think everything happens for a reason. Me and you, you got me as a friend for life now. I'm gonna be checking in on you from now on, and I want you to know that. I want you to do the same for me. Hold me accountable.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what we're here for now. Any way I can help you with anything, you please let me know. And man, just remember, man, we're a team. We're family.
Absolutely. Even more, I mean, the brotherhood of service is one thing, but you carry it, you multiply that, you magnify it when you become part of the sober family, and trying to, and that's the biggest thing in the world is not giving back, but reaching back and bringing others forward,
Amen.
and like I said, I love the way that you're doing things. And I got to tell you, be looking for a big order from me because I'm digging the clothing line. Man, you got some killer stuff on there.
Appreciate it. I'm trying day by day, man. More ideas. You got ideas? Swing them my way, and let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Heck yeah. One of my taglines that I use are what do they call those hashtag things? The number sign. I'm too old for all this techno bullshit.
I call it the tic-tac-toe, but it's hashtag. Yeah.
There you go. The tic-tac-toe. One of mine that I absolutely love to use is let me tell you the truth.
Okay.
And the reason that I use that is it started with my sister years and years ago. It's a long, boring story, but now I was making a joke about dating. And I'm like, man, let me tell you the truth about Plenty of Fish or whatever. And I went on this 10-minute comedy routine and had everybody in my family rolling. But it's kind of stuck with me. And now it carries more of a meaning because I feel like I'm speaking the truth about my life, about my experience, about the pitfalls and the wins and the losses. And so we might tag team up and put one of those out. I'd be in love with that.
Yeah. Hey, you say, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Hey,
we could have a lot of fun.
What's the name of your racing again?
It's there's two of them. The race series is the Colorado Off-Road Championship Series.
Okay.
Corks, and they're on Instagram and Facebook, and then the RMEC. The RMEC is the one we're going to be doing down in Texas, the two races down there initially in the month of March. They float between Colorado, Texas, and a couple other different places, but some really tough stuff. I mean, this enduro racing it's brutal, and I'm slow and old. So all these fast young kids, they make an old man look old. You know what I mean?
I tell you what, if you're within a few hours of me, I'm gonna come out and see you when you come down to Texas.
Man, what a celebration we'll have. We'll have a good old time.
Yes, sir. We definitely will. Chris, with that, man, I want to tell you, man, thank you for coming on the show today, and thank you for sharing your story, and know that this is gonna be heard. And you know, with that, man, I want to tell you thank you for your service, and you continue doing what you're doing, continue the mission, Charlie Mike.
I appreciate that, brother, and you can bet that we're going to do it again. I just want to say thank you for having me on. Thank you for doing what you do and staying in the fight, you know, and telling people the truth and letting them hear it. If I can ever support you in any way, I'm a phone call away. You know, if you ever need anything. I'm here.
I appreciate it. I'm a switch off, but don't log out yet. I'm gonna talk to you when we get offline.
Sounds good, brother.
Hey, as always, everybody, thank you for tuning in. And Charlie Mike.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is me, Soldier Hardwood, Redcon One Music Group, and thank you for listening to Charlie Mike, the podcast. Yay!